This week we rocked up to the leafy green environs of Cirencester Abbey in Gloucestershire in the UK to meet lighting designer Andy Webb and talk about the crazy and fun world of pantomime lighting. Can you tell me about this location?
So this is my hometown, and what you see behind me is the parish church. So I grew up here, went to secondary school. I lit my first show just behind us, about 500 metres away at the Barn Theatre. And I also was lucky enough, a week after the BBC had filmed Songs of Praise here, I actually lit a show myself inside the church.
So that was your kind of where your creative journey started, right here?
So it's nice to actually have this base where, you know, I learned all my skills as a youngster and still based here now, which is nice.
When was the first pantomime that you lit and where?
So the first one would have been at the Barn Theatre, probably when I was 15, when I was still at school, for the local Amateur Dramatic Society. It was a good way of testing things in a safe environment, see what works, see what doesn't work, and sort of create my own little style, I guess. But the first commercial one was back in 2014 at High Wycombe at the Swan. And for me that was an amazing experience because it was the first commercial show that I did for Kudos, where I actually had a decent budget, which was always nice. And just to be there in a big environment with the pressure of having to achieve on a grand scale all my thoughts and ideas was great.
When you're starting, you're planning a lighting show, a lighting plot for a panto. What are the most important things to consider? And how important, for example, is narrative and storytelling?
So for me, a pantomime really is like having your favourite book when you were a child. So it's those magical stories like Snow White, Cinderella, Jack and the Beanstalk. So I have to create that world for the new generation of kids to give them that magical experience. So that's my starting point, like going back to my childhood and trying to get those bright, vibrant colours in, but having moments where we can add the danger and the slight scare to something, because one director said to me, we have to have moments in a pantomime where it's nice and happy and soft, but then we also have to show children that there is the darker element without scaring them too much. So that's kind of my starting point, and then I will work alongside the script and try and create a tram line or a timeline to actually take the lighting on a journey as well as the show. So that's my kind of starting point with it.
And you mentioned colour a little bit there. How important is colour as an element to panto lighting? Because the world, the environment of pantos is really trippy and psychedelic, isn't it?
Yeah. The nice thing with pantomime is I don't have to sit to a specific genre. So if I was lighting a play based in Spain on a bright sunny day, you're kind of in those warm CTO colours and people would expect that. With a pantomime, I can create whatever my crazy mind sees at that particular time. So colour really lends itself to that. I can go for those bold, vivid colours, and we can do the cheesy moments as well. If they have a slight lovey-dovey moment, we suddenly go pink, or you know, a baddie might come in and it naturally would go green. But for me, what was really nice in the pantomime at High Wycombe, we challenged the whole idea of why does a pantomime villain have to be green? So for that show, the villain was a female. So I said, why don't we go purple every single time she comes on stage with like loads of break-up gobos and have this kind of finger fan effects for her entrance instead of doing green. And the director was like, whoa, that's a crazy idea, but let's give it a go. And it was so nice taking the audience away from what they were expecting of going, whoa, it's the baddie, boo, it's gone green, to take it to this kind of deep purples and kind of this slightly strange romantic look for her. And it did really add a new element to the show. So colour is a huge importance to pantomime.
You mentioned that you also work closely with the sound department at certain points. Can you tell me a bit about that?
I think it's key for all shows to work with all departments because the end result is what the audience is seeing. So if I'm just concentrating just on my lighting, I need to see it as a bigger picture. So I really enjoy working with the other departments. I suppose part of it is down to being a bit controlling. So having directed and produced shows myself, brain's set up to see the bigger picture. But it means I can talk to the sound department and say, okay, when the fairy does the spell on Cinderella's pumpkin to turn it into a horse and cart to go to the ball, I said, can you make me up a particular sound? I said, I want it to go sing, so that I knew that I could then create different lighting effects on the sound. So we might have an animation wheel that starts to move initially into a gobo flick, and then maybe shutters that do the final snap effect of the sound effect. And all that means is it really enhances on stage the end result of what the audience is seeing, but also I find it helps the actors and cast to really feel that emotion of the magic spell about to happen. So I think, yeah, working with the sound department I really enjoy.
Moving lights and LED, have they made a huge difference to how you can light a pantomime?
I would say with all things there's pluses and minuses. So yes, in terms of colour, using LED, my designs can be so vivid. I don't lose any value to what I see in my eyes by using the LEDs. So I get that really deep colours that I wouldn't necessarily get with a generic, because I'm not losing any output. So that's, for me, the huge thing is creating those dark, vivid colours. On the negative side, if you're not careful, you can spend a lot of time not achieving anything with moving lights, because there's too many options. Because you'll have, oh, there's 8 gobos, there's 4 rotating gobos, there's frost, there's animation wheel, there's this, that, and you could have so many combinations that before you know it, you might have spent, you know, an hour creating one look for one particular scene, and we don't have that luxury in pantomime to have that amount of time. So yeah, it's kind of, you have to be quite disciplined of moving forward, and moving lights, you have to be a little bit wary of that, but it's opened many doors, and certainly LEDs with their quiet operation has been a huge plus point for me, because in most venues the ceiling height is very, very low. So to have automated lights front of house that haven't got any, or if hardly any, fan noise is a massive plus point.
I've also noticed that you use a lot of Robie moving lights in your shows. Is there a particular reason for that?
So basically I was lucky enough that back in around about 2005, 2006, I was based at the Sundial Theatre, just the other side of the church, and they invested in 6 of the old Robie 250 XTs and some 575 XTs. So that was my first introduction of having a venue, a home venue that had automated fixtures. So off the back of that, obviously I became part of the Robie family, and that for me is what really is so nice about Robie, is they look after you. It doesn't matter if you're that big concert lighting designer, or if you're a TV lighting director, or you work locally, or if you're a student part of the NRG scheme. They like everybody to feel inclusive and help to forward everybody's career path. So I think that's amazing to have a manufacturer that will put that work into everybody else's creative thoughts. So that's why I've always used them as a brand within my rigs.
Do you have any memorable or favourite Panto moments?
There's probably lots. You know, I could probably give you 101 different
Maybe
things
we could go for about 2?
Yes, otherwise I think we might be sat here too long. The first one was probably a couple of years ago with the production of Beauty and the Beast up at Blackpool for UK Productions. I was really lucky because it was actually the original set from the West End production. But even though we were doing Beauty and the Beast, it wasn't the musical version. So we had to still have those elements of the slapstick comedy humour, the romantic moment, and then obviously the moments in the castle. So in the pre-production meetings, I spoke to the director and I said, look, it'd be really nice to go quite artistic with it, to try and give a different element to Panto. Most of the time, like we said earlier, it's all about those bright, vivid colours and in your face. I said, why don't we just start it really moody every time the Beast appears, because he's lonely and nobody likes him, and I said let's light him with a single light source and really work with the actor so that as he's looking up it's being lit from one side and then he turns and it uplights from below, or maybe a shaft of a gobo as he's coming through a dungeon door. So it adds that element of mystery to where he is based, and then slowly as he gets love in his heart, we slowly open up the castle and it starts to warm up, and by the time we get to the end of the show it's changed its feel from this cold damp castle into this bright romantic happy space, and it was really nice to build that into a pantomime with that big artistic layer. And to get the comments afterwards is one of the main things people were picking up on, that it was really nice to see a pantomime go on a journey like that.
Why do you actually enjoy working so much in Panto as a genre?
So for me it allows me endless possibilities. So I think if you've got a creative mind, you just like coming up with crazy ideas. And for me, the crazier the better with pantomime. We're not tied into one specific look. So if I want to go down a route and create the lair for the giant and have it all uplit from below and loads of shadows, I can do that. So it's really the only sort of show genre that kind of throws the rule book out and allows you to do what you want to do. The skill is being able to work with the other creative elements of the team and the directors and the producers to sell them your ideas, because that's really part of being a good lighting designer, is being able to sell your thoughts and ideas to the rest of the team to allow you to have this journey with your design.